How to stress less. Are you a busy middle-aged man struggling with some of the life anxieties, maybe mood swings, even depression? It's happening more and more today than ever. And we want to make sure that you're not in that boat. Coach Aaron and I have been doing this for a very long time. And in the course of our journey, we've come through the stress, we've seen it, and we've learned how to use it, kind of weaponize it, make it something that we can use to our advantage, but also how to limit and reduce. So today we want to get you into the how to stress less. So if that's what you're here for, you're in the right place. We want to make sure that our story and our mission comes through to you. So we're working with middle-aged men like yourself, and we want you to share this episode with other middle-aged men who might be struggling with things like we just mentioned and stress allowing them to kind of take over their life. So we've got a community, Facebook or Instagram. We've got a community on YouTube. We're everywhere. And we want you to get the likes and subscribes out there. So join our community, be part of our brotherhood. And today we're going to be talking about more of how we're going to get you to lose that body fat that you've been struggling with. We're going to help you get down into the nitty gritty, and we're going to reduce the stress. And that's what we want to do today. So Coach Aaron and I are here, and we're going to give you the customized work that we can on the podcast for free. But you might be someone who wants to dive deeper. If you want that, you're going to check in the comments or in the description below to get the access to our coaching, which is in there. And Get Coach link is going to be available to you. All you got to do is click it and join us down there in the description below today's episode. Welcome to the Ultimate Man podcast. Coach AJ, how you feeling, brother? How's the stress level today?
I'm feeling pretty serene, lean, mean, clean, and serene, brother.
Love it. Always a good rhyme to start things off, and sets the mood for us, because mood is a big part of obviously stress. Sometimes there's all kinds of little hacks we're going to dive into, but I know there's a lot of guys out there watching today who just like, I'm feeling the overwhelm. It's money related, it's family related, it's relationship related. There's just stress coming at us from all angles. And I want to make sure that we address all those different areas. We've been through quite a bit of them. We've been in this industry now for, 30 years. And if you put our combined effort together, that's like 50 to 60 years of knowledge and experience. And we're condensing these decades into days for our listeners. So welcome to everybody who's out there. And we're very proud of you guys for being here today, listening to the episode. Coach AJ, where do you want to start off today with the conversation on the topic of stress and how to stress less?
I'd like to say it's very prevalent in our society today. People are just overwhelmed. They're being pulled in all sorts of different directions. It is what it is. I got a couple quotes or statistics here that I pulled up when I was doing some research for the podcast here. It says the CDC, the Centers for Disease Control, says that 75% of doctors' visits are stress related. 75%. That's a lot. OSHA, which is another organization, the Occupational Safety and Health Administration, says that 90% of doctor visits are stress related. So it's a freaking epidemic. Just like obesity is an epidemic, stress is an epidemic, and they're very closely related, as we'll find out here close in the episode too. So it's a big problem. And maybe we could dive into some of those problems right off the bat, too. What do you think?
Absolutely. I love that. And I want to put one more frame out there before we do this, and we give these factors that stress is going to affect on your life. I want to let people know who are out there and you're working out, you got a great fitness routine going on, and you're eating healthy, you got a great nutrition plan going on, and you're still not seeing results. Most often, the reason that you're not getting results despite doing those two things that we all know are supposed to work is your stress levels are out of control, and that's affecting everything else. So if you don't get that stress under control, you're not going to have these things win the way that they're supposed to win. That's really important, because I've had a lot of clients show up going, I don't know what else. I've done everything else. I'm going to need some help from you because I don't know what I'm missing. And it's accountability and stress reduction through habits that is going to change the game. And then everything just like it puts takes the ceiling off, you know what I mean? It unlocks it. And then the diet starts to work, the nutrition, the workouts start flourishing. And it's just unbelievable what stress can do to keep you chained. So we're going to unlock that for you today. If you keep listening to today's episode, we're going to give you a ton. But here's what you want to do right now. Get your notepad, grab your pen, and write down these 10 factors we're going to give you that might be affecting your life. And if you realize that 1, 2, or even 3 or more of these are affecting you, you're probably going to want to reach out for some help, or at least dive into these and start, working on improving them. So I like where you're going with this one, Coach AJ. We're going to take on 10 things that could be affecting your life right now. The first one you might notice increase in cortisol levels. Now, stress levels can hinder weight loss, which I've just talked about. You're trying to lose weight, but you're not losing that weight. Cortisol can promote fat storage and in the abdominal area. So if you're looking at your abdomen in the mirror and you're seeing that there's that stubborn love handles and there's that stubborn body fat that's kind of storing around there, a lot of that will be cortisol related. So anything you want to add to point number 1, Coach?
That's a great point, and a lot of people don't know that the cortisol and stores it more predominantly in the abdominal fat area, and the reason for that is because it can be utilized more and mobilized more efficiently just when it's stored there in the abdominal area. So it's just a survival mechanism that our body does. It's like, hey, let's store it here because we can utilize that fat more efficiently when we need it.
Yeah. And I always think too, I was told kind of like the idea of the fat being a protector of the organs, and all your organs are right in the midsection as well. So it's like an insulator and a protector. So fat stores where it's supposed to do its best job to protect our body for survival. So it makes sense, but stress is just adding to it, right? We're going to have a ton there. So if we already got some, that's a bad thing to keep adding on to when you don't like what you're seeing in the mirror. Check that box saying, okay, I got to work on reducing cortisol levels, right? How to do that?
And that's a big predictor of like coronary artery disease and stuff too, is that abdominal fat. So not only is it belly fat that I know you guys don't want, it's the artery disease that goes hand in hand with that as well.
Great point. Totally. And I think that's going to touch on a few of the other ones that we have here. It's going to show back up in there. The second one on the list of effects, you're going to want to check the box if you're suffering from poor sleep quality. Go back and watch our episode that we recorded from last week. You're going to want to check it out because Aaron and I covered sleep on a mass spectrum. That episode was amazing. We had great response from it, and sleep is a massive trigger for stress. So if you're not getting good quality sleep, it can disrupt your patterns, lead to insomnia, restlessness, and negativity, impacting your energy levels, your metabolism, and recovery from exercise. A lot of people don't realize that the recovery from exercise takes place when you sleep. So anything you want to add to the poor sleep quality before we move on?
No, I mean, I think it goes back to what you mentioned kind of like when we started this conversation about the problems that we'll experience, as it reminds me of something. You can't be in both survival and thrival mode at the same time. So like you were talking about, a lot of your clients that are doing the workout, they're doing the nutrition, but they're still not seeing the results. It's because they're in that survival mode, and you're in that survival stress mode. You can't be in a simultaneous state of thrival at the same time.
That's good, man. I like that. Framing it for them. So again, they know where they're at. They've been working on it, and they're having such a survival mechanism in front of them that there's really no opportunity to thrive yet. You got to kind of get on the winning side of that. So number 3, emotional eating is another stress-inducing trigger. So triggers in craving high-calorie foods, finding comfort foods. Again, you're maybe emotional eating, and you're saying, I'm eating this bucket of ice cream because I'm sad. Well, it might only be making you more sad, right? And so we got to watch out for emotional eating. If that's you, check that box, and you realize that maybe you've got 3 out of the 10 things already that are causing you to be held back from reaching your goals. The next one being muscle loss. Elevated cortisol levels can break down muscle tissue, reduce muscle mass and strength, and hinder fitness progress. This is probably the main one that I deal with a lot, is with clients coming in and saying, I'm doing the workouts and stuff, I'm just not seeing the results. So muscle loss, and I'm hitting the weights and I'm trying to lift heavier and harder, and muscle in itself, the workouts are a stress. So have you experienced this, or anything you want to add to the point number 4, muscle loss, Coach?
If you want to be a boss, you got to avoid that muscle loss. You know what I mean? Gotta throw my little rhymes in there. I would just say that I like to bring it back to this too, that it's so much like synergistic and compounding effect between the psychological and the physical. So a lot of people are getting the physical components down right, but if they have a lot of psychological stressors that are adding on top of that, that's contributing to that overall stress load, it's going to negate their gains.
Yeah, that's it. And again, it's reminds me of a quote that I heard, and again, it popped into my head when you were talking. The mountain that you're carrying, you're supposed to be climbing, right? And it's like people let all this weight sit on them, and that's what's holding them back from that elevation, that thriving you were talking about. And it's like just being bogged down by the weight of something you should be, climbing rather than carrying. So keep that in mind. We think about weight training and carrying weight. But also, again, we do go back to that cortisol. That's actually part of the reason the muscle loss is happening. And we're going to talk more about that in our solutions as well. Number 5 on this checklist, reduced exercise performance. Now, that's not exactly muscle loss, but it's actually how you're performing when you work out. You might notice that you're not getting as much out of the workouts because you're not putting as much into it. Decreased motivation is the main thing we get. A lot of guys just coming in going, I don't feel motivated to work out. So stress is the reasoning behind this. You're waiting for that motivation to show up. Stress isn't going to allow that. So your focus lacks, your physical performance during your workout, and of course you get suboptimal results. Anything you want to add to that reduced exercise performance, coach?
No, it's just a true story. I mean, like I said, you got stress in any area aspect of your life, it's going to carry over to the gym, and you're just not going to be able to hit those PRs for sure if you're just freaking stressed instead of blessed.
Yeah, I love it. Keep those rhymes coming. I know our viewers enjoy that. They love it. It's our personality. It's either you're getting analogies or you're getting the rhyme time. I love it. Number 6 on the checklist is hormone balance. And this is where kind of the mood swings come in. You might be someone who's noticing right now, you're all over the spectrum, all over the map with mood swings. That's hormone and that's stress related. So chronic stress disrupts your hormone balance, affects your appetite regulation. You're saying to yourself, I'm not hungry. I'm just never hungry. Or I've got this ravenous appetite and I can't stop eating. Both of which can lead to weight gain and fat production. So under eating is just as dangerous as overeating. We got to make sure that we get that out to people. And I think that all of that comes down to that stress signal. So chronic stress can disrupt that hormone balance, which can affect your appetite and your metabolism and your muscle building process, which is now why we see muscle loss can be a factor from stress as well. So number 7, increased risk of chronic disease. And this goes back to where Coach AJ was a few minutes ago, talking about that chronic disease. Long-term stress is associated with increased risk of developing chronic conditions, such as cardiovascular disease, diabetes, and obesity. So I know, Coach, you were talking on that a little bit. Do you want to add anything to that one? The increased risk of chronic disease from stress.
No, but because I lost my train of thought because I was making notes for a second on the previous topic. So
I jumped too fast.
yeah. I just wanted to throw something in there to the last one we were talking about. Sleep, eating. A lot of people don't know this, but a lot of people, when they become stressed, are more of like a sympathetic dominant type. So there's parasympathetic and sympathetic, and the people that are more like sympathetic dominant, like those really high driving individuals, type A personalities and stuff. A lot of times those guys, when they get stressed, they won't have a hunger issue at all. So that's kind of their problem. They just don't eat enough. And then on the opposite end of the spectrum, there's the people that are more on like the metabolic dysfunction side that have more of like insulin resistance, and they're more prone to more overeating because they're more susceptible to like that opioid response. So like when they eat, they get that real big opioid trigger and high. So I just wanted to differentiate the two sides of the spectrum. Some people get stressed, they undereat. Some people, they overeat. So you kind of need to figure out which one you are of those types too.
So are you an undereater or an overeater? Go in the comments right now and let us know. You're watching the episode. Get in there and let us know. I overeat, and here's why I think I do that. Or if I undereat, I just don't seem to have an appetite. Here's why I think I do that. Use today's episode to maybe help answer that question for yourself, but at least let us know. Jump in the comments and tell us where you're at. That's going to be awesome. And thanks for doing that, Coach, on hormone balance back in number 6. So I moved too quickly on to 7 before you had a chance to complete your note. So now on number 7, the increased risk of chronic disease. I know you touched on it earlier, but was there any extra points or statistics or anything you wanted to add to that about the long-term effect of stress on chronic disease like cardiovascular or even diabetes or obesity in general?
I think they're just so interrelated. I mean, it's just like, stress is probably one of just the underlying root causes of all of those. You're stressed and your diet becomes poor, and then you develop like diabetes and insulin resistance, and you become obese, and then you get heart disease in response to that, and it just becomes this vicious cycle. So it's so hard to differentiate all of the chronic diseases from one another because they're so interrelated to just this overall underlying inflammation, metabolic dysfunction, all related to stress.
Yeah. A lot of what I'm seeing out there today in the studies and the podcasts that are out there and stuff, and the experts who are really diving into the science behind it all, are finding so much of this mental health, autoimmune diseases, all of this stuff that's being diagnosed is all starting with gut health. And a lot of that becoming the stressor itself is literally all designed in the gut. And the correlation back to healthy eating, exercise, and all of that, it's proving to be more valuable. It's really the medicine that people need more than ever is the medicine of the gut, fixing that. And it's not medication from pharmaceutical. It's literally good nutrients. And I mean, we're going to dive into the food part of it eventually here in today's episode. But ultimately, we just want to make sure that when we're looking at the digestive system, this is going to be point number 8. Digestive issues. So if you're someone who can check the box saying, I struggle with bloating, constipation, diarrhea, nutrient absorption of overall, of certain foods are just triggering me. I'm getting massively, bad responses from eating certain foods. I think those digestive issues are causing stress. And then that stress is also causing more digestive issue. It's like a very vicious cycle. Anything you want to add to the digestive tract point on stress as far as experience or any anecdotes on that one, Coach?
Yeah. So there's rest and digest. This goes back to I wanted to kind of give a little context to the sympathetic and the parasympathetic nervous systems. This is a good time to kind of tie that in.
Cool.
So it's kind of like this seesaw, right? So there's like the sympathetic nervous system is like the fight or flight. It's like you're ready, your adrenaline's pumping, you gotta fight or do something to protect yourself, that type of thing. And then there's the feed and breed, more of like the digestion and the reproduction, breeding, right? And you can't be in a simultaneously like fight or flight state or the feed or breed state. It's either kind of one or the other, and it's like this pendulum seesaw type thing. So that's why when you're in a sympathetic dominant state and you're in that fighting response and your adrenaline's pumping, all of your blood and your muscles are going to start to contract, and all your oxygen is going to go to be able to defend yourself or whatever you need to do, and it's going to detract from your digestive system. So that's one of the reasons I think that it's just so beneficial to just, I mean, it's okay to be in that sympathetic dominant state at times, but you need to get out of it so that you can go back into more of a productive digestion state, reproductive state, whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, so the seesaw is like this the scale, a balance of one side or the other, and kind of like earlier too, you were talking about the excelling or not being able to, like being in a state of fear and anxiety versus the thriving, right? I think there's that same thing, and that's so much based on that hormone balance. But yeah, you kind of talked about it as what was it, feed or breed? Was that what it was?
Feed or breed. So it's like the digestion and the reproduction is more a part of the parasympathetic nervous system.
Mm.
When you're healing, you're recovering, you're just in more of like a chill mode. That's like the parasympathetic. So, and when you're more of like a sympathetic dominant, you're working out, you're exercising hard and stuff. You tend not to be as hungry because your energy shuttles away from your digestive process and goes towards your muscles and all that kind of stuff.
Cool, man. I had never heard the feed and breathe thing before, so I was like, I'm going to dive a little bit more on that. That's cool. Again, the parasympathetic system has the two sides to it, and hopefully our listeners are getting that contrast. And Aaron did a great job of explaining that. And in point number 9, now that we move to the next one, weakened immune system. Prolonged stress suppresses immune function, making individuals more susceptible to infection, illness, overall health and well-being. Well, that one kind of ties in a lot to the digestive, the cardiovascular risk diseases and things like that as well. But your immune system am I getting sick on a regular basis? Do I notice that I'm constantly contracting every disease? I mean, someone could walk by and cough and I've got whatever they had, So I think people are more susceptible when their system is weak. Stress weakens your immune system. We know that. And a lot of times you become so much more susceptible to getting sick. Then you bring that back to your family and whatever, and it just becomes a airborne virus that you keep spreading back around again. So Coach Aaron, anything on the weakened immune system about getting sick and things that you'd want to add to point number 9?
Yeah, I think it's all about the length and like the intensity of the stress as well. So like short terms of stress are actually beneficial for immunity, like ice baths and like short hormetic workouts and stuff like that. That's going to challenge your body just temporarily for a short bit of time. because your body releases the adrenaline, and like there's actually your spleen releases like killer cells and all these things that actually boost the immunity for a short period of time, for like those ice baths or what have you. But then the problem comes when you have like chronic, stress that lasts for weeks or months at a time. That's when you really have to worry about that immunity issue. So I just like to go back to the point that like stress can be a good thing in the short term, but long term, bad news.
Nice. Nice. So if what you're saying is I should look to stress myself sometimes in ways that strengthen me, that sounds counterproductive to the whole idea of like, I hate being stressed. I want to get less stress. So today's episode, when we were talking about it, was, how to stress less. It wasn't to say how to stop stressing altogether. Coach AJ is saying you need some stress. But you
Yeah.
need to stress it properly to build your immunity, to actually strengthen your soldiers to go to war, right? I love it, man. I love it. I picture this little analogy, these little soldiers going through my body fighting shit,
Yep.
It's
Yep.
like, yeah, we got to strengthen those guys. So they do need some challenge in their life, right? They got to get stronger. They need some stress. So cold ice therapy bath was one of the things you threw out there as a stressor. And so would exercise fall on that same spectrum of being a stressor, but a good one to actually create our stronger immune system, stronger, because we just think aesthetically, right? If I do a curl, I build a bicep. If I do a chest press, I build pecs. But that's not just what that's for, right? We're going to actually build up some immunity, some strength against resistance against injury even, right? Strength training has a lot of carryover benefit. So it sounds like we do need some stress in our life, so we can't just get rid of all of it.
Yep.
It's about balance and consistency. I'm loving this. All right. So finally, point number, and again, those of you checking the boxes, you might have 9 out of 9 right now and go, holy shit, I have a lot of stress in my life. Right. And I didn't realize how much until you guys ran this checklist. And I'm like 9 out of 10 right now. Cool. We're here to help you fix this. The last one is mental health concerns. And I went kind of talking about this in the beginning. If you're someone who says, I've got a ton of anxiety, depression, mood swings, overall quality of life is being affected. A lot of times that is all stress related. Stress is causing these things. And we talked about gut health obviously being something where people are being diagnosed with ADD and ADHD and all these different, autoimmune disorders and things where the brain's being affected by the gut. But stress is all behind all of this as well. And it's those anxiety feelings and depression that lead to more stress. So people are often, I find, living in the past, holding on to old stress, or they're stressing about the future that isn't even here yet. Those are two reasons that people end up with more anxiety, more depression, more stress than they should have. Because right now, in the moment, there shouldn't be any stress right now if you kind of use all your senses and just kind of soak up and be present at the moment, instead of getting worried about what might happen in the future or holding on to what has happened in the past. Those are some things I talk about when I talk about mental health concern, because I think a lot of people can overcome things when they realize what to let go of and what they can actually cope with and deal with. But Coach AJ, what do you got for us on point number 10? Mental health concern, anxiety, depression, mood swings, and how stress affects that.
It kind of just made me think back to this study that I was just looking at not too long ago, where they did some research, and they gave like two groups of people. They had one group, they were going to make both of the groups perform like a demanding, challenging task, but they told one group that okay, that this demanding, challenging task will decrease your performance, that the stress of doing this task will decrease your performance. And then they told the other group, no, this demanding, challenging task is actually going to make you rise to the level of like, performing it even better. So this challenge, even though it's a stressful situation, is going to make you perform better. And the people that they told that the challenge was going to make them perform even better actually perform better. So it goes all just goes back to what your perception of the challenging situation is like, can you find the silver lining in it and be like, okay, maybe this is a stressful situation, but how does this stressful situation serve me?
So framing is a big part. How you frame that situation. From what I'm hearing you say there is like these people were told that the stress was going to give them a better performance, and they got that placebo almost. Would you say that that's placebo? Is that kind of what we're getting as that planting the seed of here's what you're going to get from this, even if it doesn't do that. Let's just say,
Totally.
like
Totally.
like when they run these studies and they give people a specific medication or whatever, and they say here's what it's supposed to do, and they give someone else a placebo one that doesn't actually contain that ingredient, and they still see the effects of it, right? Just because the
Mhm.
mind is framed in the right way. So that goes back to our episodes on self-talk, the way that you frame your own language. Man, you could control your own stress just by how you talk to yourself. What if you're someone who says right now, it's just who I am, man. I'm a high level stress person. I'm just always stressed out. You're always telling yourself and reframing it for yourself so that you are in that identity regularly. Oh man, I'm always stressed out. Like my life is so full of stress. You can hear it, right? You're constantly piling that on yourself just in your own language. What if you start saying, I'm experiencing an episode of overwhelm, but I could get on the winning side of this. Here's how I need to, start reframing it, right? Instead of saying this is who I am, it's kind of just a situation of what you're going through. That could be a different frame altogether. What do you think, Coach AJ? Is it all about the language, maybe, where someone could reframe that? Like you just said in that study, they were only told that it was going to be a good thing. What do you think about the self-talk language part of it? Is it you got some tips and strategies there?
Yeah, the language of self-talk is huge, but at the same time, I think, just bringing some realism to the situation of being like, yeah, I really am stressed out. Like, I can tell myself all the good things I want to, but maybe, what can I actually learn from this? Like, maybe what are the lifestyle and healthy habits that I maybe need to adopt, and what are the things that I need to relinquish in my life that are going to reduce some of this stress, this chronic stress, and be able to come back to a little more of a state of homeostasis. So learn from the challenges and the depression or the anxiety or the sleepless nights and all that bad shit that you got going on, and find out how it can serve you better.
Yeah, how can it serve you better? Write that down. Those of you who are watching the podcast right now or listening to us wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts, we appreciate you. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel so that we can have you in the community. Turn on the notification bell so you don't miss more of this great information on a regular basis. We come out to you every Monday with a live episode. We're even thinking about maybe releasing it early, VIP Sundays, which is kind of cool. So Coach AJ and I have been throwing around some new ideas out there for our listeners. And those of you who are eager to get that information, might be available on Sundays coming soon. Stay tuned. All right. So, those are the 10 things that you want to check to see how many of those apply to your life right now. And you just might realize that stress is playing a major role in your life, and we can help you get on the winning side of that. Obviously, if you want to get personalized coaching, though, really dive into this, be held accountable to what you really need to do, then that's where you're going to want to hire us to work with you. And we have that available. So, again, check that in the links below, and Coach AJ will make sure that's in the show notes so you guys can get in on it. Any specifics that you want to add to any of our programs or anything you want to put out there right now, Coach?
Nope, I think I'm good
We're
to go,
good. Yeah,
bro.
right now we're in
Yeah.
the middle. We're in the middle of running our summer shred right now. Guys are
Oh
kicking
yeah.
ass right now,
Yeah.
and it's going good.
Yeah, I would say, I mean, just to kind of touch on that a little bit, the summer shred's going awesome. And one of the things that we really are helping the guys out with, that's part of the whole discussion here, is how to restructure some of those healthy habits and add those healthy habits into their life, and maybe, get rid of some of the things that are kind of wearing them down, stressing them out, and making them not perform as well in the gym or their home workouts or wherever they're doing the workouts. So like that, just that accountability seems to be the real missing key. I think that I see as really the game changer, and the guys that are doing the program now. So if you need that accountability, definitely reach out for us and said
Yeah.
get coached. Just go to get coached and the link in the description, and you're good to go.
I love that. I can't wait to work with some of our listeners. I know you guys are out there and you're needing that help. Don't suffer in silence. We're here to help. All right. So now talk about help. We got about 30 minutes left that we're going to spend with you. In the next 30 minutes, we're going to give you some of the goods. All right. We know what all those pain points were, the things you might be suffering with. How can we solve some of those problems? Well, here's what you're going to need to do. The first one on the list is what we've got these guys working on right now in our program: exercise regularly. So, what to do? Engage in regular physical activity, including some cardio, some strength training, flexibility even. And I know, Coach Aaron, you're a big advocate for the banded work and the flexibility. And so tell us a little bit about that. How is exercise going to reduce the stress? What's some of the science behind it that you've studied? What do you want to bring to us in the point one, exercise regularly?
Well, that's one of the main problems that people get when they get stressed. That's the main symptom, is your muscles become tight. Like your body literally prepares itself to fight or flight. Like you're getting ready to get hit in the jaw or getting in a fight, like your jaw, your muscles tense, your neck and your shoulders start getting tight, your back. So your whole body, that's just a natural reaction to the adrenaline is pumping through your body, getting your muscles ready to do whatever you have to do to protect yourself or whatever. So that tight musculature is such a problem, and so stretching is hugely beneficial. I do a lot of stretching and yoga as part of my training program, um, and then you release all that tight musculature, so you're not in pain. You're not, you're avoiding injuries and all that good stuff. So yeah, you just definitely gotta decrease the stress and get rid of those tight muscles because they're not doing you any good.
I love it, man. And I think about that. We're going to talk about breath work too. But when I stretch, I really focus on breathing, just relaxing and breathing. And it is a complete de-stressor. Just one good stretch. Even if we could have the listeners right now who are sitting here, just while you're listening to us, you could do some stretching while you're listening to soak up the episode, right? Just get a stretch there. Now, Coach AJ's giving you one right now. Just the old good morning stretch, right? Just reach back and stretch it out. Take that deep breath in. It is unbelievable. And we're going to make sure that we give you some of the good stuff. So stretching and exercise are major. And then we talked about exercise being a bit of a stressor, but a kind of an immunity builder, isn't it? And so if you go to the gym, how hard should you work out? Like if we're trying to get someone to exercise regularly, does it require that they go in there and hit PRs on a regular basis? Or are we saying, maybe less is more? What do you think of that? Where'd you take that statement, I guess?
I'm so bad about this. I always write down notes because something comes into my head. And I get right now. So I was just thinking about the working out and the muscles getting tight and stuff. Oh, now I lost my train of thought.
Damn, yeah.
I'll come back to it. But what was the point that I just missed? You just were talking about. Sorry, brother.
No, that's good because you were talking about what I was asking was about the stressing of the muscle itself because we were talking about some stress being good stress and building that immunity. So when you go to work out, you're tightening that muscle, you're creating more stress. But then the stretching is the answer to reducing that. But what I was asking is someone listening to the podcast might say, well, is more stress good? Like, should I go shoot for a PR? Should I max out every workout? Should I be trying to go for all out and get as much stress as I can so that I get even stronger? Or is less more? Should I take it more on a consistently small dosage approach? Or is there, benefit to both?
Well, if you're 21 years old and your name is Sam Sulik, then you should just go into the gym and crush it till failure as hard as you can every single workout. And you're on a shit ton of PEDs. That's what you should do. But if you're realistic and you're over 40, feeling sporty, over 50, and you want to stay nifty, then you better take it down a notch and implement some type of like progressive overload, like we do in our programs, where you start out at a certain intensity, a certain volume, and then you just, incrementally work your way up to a higher intensity, a higher volume, and you don't blow your wad on the first workout.
Yeah, good advice. Great advice, Coach, because I was thinking about this when people go to the gym, they are most often just chasing the maximum load they can. And that's either going to cause you to break, which means injury, or it's going to cause you to plateau, which means no further result. And therefore that creates stress because now you're not seeing results anymore. You're hitting it hard. You're not seeing your weights go up anymore and you're stuck. This is where we come in. We're going to make sure that you have something we call periodization. And that's going to prevent these plateaus. We're going to move you through phases. So don't just think Google has the answer or YouTube has the answer. There's so much out there. We're condensing decades into days for a reason. We've had all this coaching in the background that we've used to create programs to help walk you through with proper science behind it and making sure that you're going through phases that don't allow you to get stuck at a plateau. It's important to work with the people who've been there before. We've been on the winning side of it for a long time. And I can tell you, it's a lot easier now at a maintenance of what we like versus the building process. It was a long process of building. You got to put in the work. You got to put in the hours. We're not lying to you there. That's going to take time, but it's easier to maintain once you get what you needed, right? So do it right. Do it the first time and speed up and condense those decades into days. Let's go. All right. So number two, practice mindful meditation. Now, this is a little bit different. Meditation. Incorporate mindfulness practice, such as meditation or deep breathing, or even yoga into a daily routine. How do you feel about that, Coach? Is that a big stress reliever in your life, or do you use it with clients on the yoga, the meditation, and the breath work?
It's been a huge de-stressor in my own life. Actually, I used to have some periods where I was going through like major depression, anxiety attack, like panic attacks. Like I thought my heart was just going to explode and I was going to freaking have a heart attack. Like super bad stuff, especially when I was drinking, because I think the drinking would really exacerbate those symptoms for me for whatever reason. So that's one of the things that I would do is I would just, when I got into those panic attack states, I would just go into doing some breathing and some yoga stretching. And it just really checks you back in with your body and it kind of slows the breath down. That's just one tip I'd like to give real quick is like one thing that you could really do. There's a relationship between your breath and your parasympathetic and your nervous system and stuff. So if you take quicker, like the Wim Hof breathing, he goes like what they're doing with that is they're stimulating their adrenaline to get pumped up. So you're temporarily increasing your adrenaline by that fast and more vigorous inhale. But if you really deliberately slow your exhale down and prolong the exhale, like there's this thing called just like it's like the therapeutic sigh or something like that, where you just go, and you just consciously prolong the exhale and just that physiological response. If you do it for at least 20 to 30 seconds, will just start to check you back into that parasympathetic state and just take you out. So if you're in a really stressed out state, you're having a panic attack, slow your exhale way down, prolong the exhale so you can get out of that state, because those are horrible situations to be in. I've been there.
Dude, that's crazy. My mind just exploded for a second. Hold on. So you're saying I can put myself in an explosive state by breathing explosively intentionally.
Yeah.
So I'm just thinking about like using this as a pre-workout motivation, right? Some people say, "Well, I don't want to work out because I'm not really motivated. I'm not feeling it." Most often, you're breathing very shallow at that point, not getting a lot of air, probably in a very relaxed breath state, and maybe not taking deep, relaxing Wim Hof. Sorry, not Wim Hof. I'm going to use Wim Hof as the answer here. If I was to say I want to get fired up, I could actually take some of those short, powerful, explosive breaths that you were just suggesting and get myself riled up. I could actually fire myself up on the spot. Is that what you're telling me?
Yeah. Or do something like a fire breath, or this like fire breath where you breathe in and out of your nose real quick, like.
Right.
I don't know if you can hear me or not, but that type of thing like really just stimulates your adrenaline a little bit, get you pumped up. So yeah,
Yeah.
your own little pre-workout.
That's pretty cool. And so I'm thinking about it two ways, right? Number one, I can use it to fire myself up, but I can also use it to keep myself, like I could create my own, in a negative way, I could create my own anxiety and make more stress. People who are, constantly hyperventilating and getting worked up, that's the point. You got to catch your breath and bring it back down. Like you got to realize that it can be your stressor in a good way, or it can actually lead to a complete out of control panic attack. You can actually stop, hold your breath, and then, like you said, long exhale to breathe it out and completely relax, which we use most of the time. When people are getting really worked up, we just say, hey, stop, relax, catch your breath, right? And you take that deep breath in, you hold it, and then you slowly let that out. That, like you said, that relaxation breath out, that exertion of air, the expelling of the air. So you can calm yourself down with breathing, but you can also work yourself up with it. And I think that's pretty cool, because my mind exploded thinking, what if I just wanted to get fired up to go do something right now, motivated, and I just started doing a little bit of intentional hyperventilation, like a Wim Hof style of in, out, in, out. That would work, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I definitely get some blood pumping to the heart and get you, charged up.
I'm going to go try that. I'm going to go try that right after today's episode. I'm going to go get it before my workout. Maybe pre-workout I could save some money on, and I could start using some breathing techniques. I love it. That's great, man. What a nugget of gold for today. Perfect. I hope our listeners are taking these notes, guys, out there. So number 3, adequate sleep. That's where we're going to move to next. This is something that we have to prioritize. So prioritizing your hygiene by creating a consistent bedtime routine and optimizing your sleep environment. Again, we did a whole episode on this one. So is there anything you want to touch on this extra, Coach, or do you want to just say, go back and watch the other episode?
Definitely go back and watch the episode. It's too much to dive deep into just like a
Yeah.
brief little statement or two. Sleep deserves a whole podcast on itself. So go check that out for sure.
Totally. Adequate sleep's a major stress reducer. And again, we've got a whole hour's worth of information for you. And another great reason for you to stay subscribed to our channel, because there's more of these topics coming at you every week. So let's move on to the next one. How to, number 4, maintain a balanced diet. Now we're going to talk about the food here. And so I talked about people who come to me and say, I've already got the food in check. I'm eating good food and I'm eating clean. We did talk about people who have no appetite and people who have an abundance of appetite and can't stop eating. So in this one, what to do is to eat a balanced diet rich with whole food, including fruits and veggies, lean proteins, and healthy fats, which can sometimes come in the form of protein, because a lot of people have been on that old mindset where they've been told fats are bad, saturated animal meat fats are bad. We've gotten past that. That's old information now. That's been debunked and over. So Coach AJ, on the maintaining of a balanced diet to reduce stress, our listeners out there may be just kind of looking at what do I do to balance it out. Well, we just give them some tips. What are your tips to add to that?
I would just say, you want to really stabilize your blood sugar levels. That's a very big contributor to just your overall feeling of well-being. Like if you're in a state of like too much of a deficit and deprivation for too long, you're going to get into that like starvation type mode, and that's going to increase your cortisol and stress levels. So, one of the things that we preach to a lot of our clients is just, don't go into that deficit for too long. Again, it comes back to our workout programming where you got to have this like periodization, and you got to structure your diet appropriately. But yeah, balanced diet and just kind of really stabilizing those blood sugar levels will really help out a lot.
Good. I like that you went down to talk about the low calorie part of it, because when people hear the word diet, they immediately think calorie restriction. I try to teach clients that diet just means anything you put in your mouth. It's literally all you consume. It could be diet means calorie surplus. Diet means maintenance. Diet means calorie deficit. Diet is everything you eat. It's been kind of like stereotyped to be calorie deficit. So people go, I'm on a diet. That instantly means that you're being restricted from everything. You're living a miserable life and you're eating very little to nothing, and it can only be chicken breasts and broccoli, and your life is miserable. That's not what diet is. Diet is everything you eat. Anything you eat. It's all diet. So what is the diet that works? We always say is the diet that you design for you. It's your diet. And whatever you're trying to do as your outcome is something we as coaches have to help you build. So if you want to get muscle on, we have to design that diet with you. We can't just give you a cookie cutter diet and say, here's the one that's going to do it for you. There's so much to this game, guys, and we want to make sure you know that. Reach out for the help if you need the help, but don't just kind of follow some cookie cutter that Jay Cutler used to get jacked, and then all of a sudden you're eating 6,000 calories and you're having all kinds of gut health, and now you're even more stressed, right? It's crazy, right? So I like that you went there, because most people think diet, they think calorie restriction, and they immediately start cutting down to no food at all, which actually creates even more stress than before, causing no fat loss. And if anything, causing weight loss, and weight loss is muscle loss most often. That's even more dangerous, isn't it? Because we talked about muscle loss being a stress thing, and also, having so much of the detrimental effect on the body. By not having the muscle, you're not looking good, you're not feeling good, you don't have functional strength. Like, there's just so many downfalls to losing that muscle. And that could all come from that calorie deficit. So when we talk about maintaining a balanced diet, it doesn't just mean balance between good foods like carbs, proteins, and fats. It literally means balancing those calories out to match your energy expenditures, how much you're burning in a day. There's a lot going on with what you're spending. If you're not paying the body back, that's like a bank account that's in the red all the time, man. And if you're not paying the body any money, it's not going to want to spend a dime, right? So think about that. That's a stressor in itself. So don't go doing that. Coach AJ was just giving us the idea of eating too little being a major stressor. So I think that's really good. Did you want to elaborate anything, or we covered it there?
No, you lose your muscle, your metabolism slows, your energy decreases, you don't have as much energy, so then you're even more stressed because you're overwhelmed and you got a ton of shit to do and you don't have the energy or the muscle to be able to perform, and it's just bad all around.
Love it. Love it. So, number 5, ready for this one, guys? Establish boundaries. All right. What to do? Set boundaries to protect your time, your energy, prioritize your self-care, and say no to excessive commitments. How many times have we fallen victim to this, Coach AJ?
Oh, dude, so many people are just like, yeah, just overworked these days. I mean, in our society, people are just like, just all work and no play. You just need to strike that balance.
So boundaries, there's none, right? And how many times is a good guy, which I know you're a good guy listening to this podcast, all too often, your first response is yes, of course, right? Someone says, "Can you do this?" "Oh, yes, of course. Absolutely, I'll do that for you." And the next thing you know, you got like yourself strung out 10 different ways, right? And you cannot keep up. And you're saying, "Oh, I can take it on. No problem, no problem." And you end up so stressed because you're just trying to help everybody else, right? And I think about that because there's no boundary. You're the yes guy. But what if you became the no guy once in a while and just said, "You know what, for my own personal stress levels and my mental health, I got to be the no guy sometimes." And we as entrepreneurs here, and we're talking about building the Ultimate Man podcast, the Ultimate Man project. Coach AJ and I have clients of our own individually that we work with each. Then we've got the Ultimate Man group each, and we're building our business in the background as a combined unit, right? And we're putting together all these different things. But yet every week we come back and say, what else can we do to offer better service and more value to our community? We're always looking for growth opportunity, but there comes a time where the both of us have to realize we only have so much that we can handle before we get stressed out. And we're trying to do our best to bring value, and our intention is always really, really good. But at the end of the day, we can burn out too. We got to really put some boundaries up to protect ourselves. So we have times and we have schedules. Hey, Coach AJ and I get together on a Tuesday and we sit down and we lay out our week so that we have some schedule, knowing what we're going to do. That actually takes some stress off our plate. But we've created some boundaries as to when we're available, when we're going to work on this. I mean, it's just really important that you guys know that us as real coaches, real individuals, are also real men in the world who are over the age of 40. We've had our share of struggles, and we still to this day struggle with our own battle of trying to offer so much value that sometimes we get in our own way and overstress ourselves. And we're working on sleep, and we're working on keeping our good diet, and we're hitting our workouts. But we're victim to it too. Everybody is. So you got to really set some boundaries. Want to elaborate on any of that, Coach?
Minimalism, baby. Minimalism is where it's all at for me these days. Just trying to focus on the needle movers and letting go of all the fluff. And I like the saying that says you don't rise to the level of your goals, but you fall to the level of your systems. So like everybody's got the goals, but everybody doesn't rise to those goals that they want to achieve. They fall to the level of their systems. So we have systems in place. We meet on a weekly basis to do our podcast. We train certain days at the gym. So like we do our meal prep on certain times or days or whatever it looks like. Whatever those systems are, we can help you implement those into your own life. That's going to take a lot of that stress off of your plate.
That's so good. The boundaries, the systems, it's just a major part of the game. And another part here is going to be point number 6, seeking social support. Connecting with friends and family, support groups, emotional support. That's why we really harp on our community, our Ultimate Man community. It's such a great place for you guys to be. We've created a forum. We've got a community. We got a place where you can be part of the movement, right? And it's surrounding yourself with other like-minded individuals who are on the same journey. But you're going to find people who deal with stress in there as well, but they're finding solutions rather than focusing on problems. Misery loves company. If you talk to 5 people who are stressed and miserable, and that's all they want to talk about is how stressed, you're going to find that it's like a competition to see who has the bigger problem, right? You think you got it bad, you should see how bad mine is. And they almost wear it like a badge of pride or badge of honor, right? I got so much stress. And it's like, it's unbelievable the story that they'll continue to build. Like a game of telephone, it gets worse every time you hear it. That's where those people are taking pride. They're connecting to that negative story. That's not a community you want to be in. So again, we talked about setting boundary, but also seek social support from people who are in alignment with less stress, which is just like what you're listening to right now. 2 guys who are finding less stress on a daily basis and trying to set boundaries and communicate with like-minded individuals like the guests on our podcast. Every month we have a main event guest who brings some banging knowledge to you, and you got to listen in on those main events because damn, that's some good information. And if you get tired of hearing Coach AJ and I, it's a new voice to listen to as well. But Coach, what about the community? What about the friends, the family support group? What do you want to add to that?
I just think it's so cool when you are part of a larger community and everybody's on the same mission to level up or lose weight, get back in shape, just optimize their health, overall health and well-being. Because then you come together as a synergistic unit, and everybody is looking for those solutions together. And you're not just talking about the fucking problems. Like, you might bring your problems to the group and say, like, here's what I'm going through. But then your brothers in our mastermind community are like, well, maybe this will help. And you start, having that pool of information from, like, consolidating the decades into days from not only us as coaches, but like all of them. And maybe they've gone through a similar scenario, and then you kind of see how other people have navigated those challenges in their own lives, and it's super powerful just to like come together like that.
Really cool. I've also heard military people talk about that mindset when they get into their platoon or their band of brothers, right? Even when you watch those movies, you feel like drawn into it emotionally. It's motivating. And you see them like they would die for each other. Like, holy shit, that's crazy. But they're prepared to, right? Like, man, that's a community of strength right there, right? And then they leave that community and they often get lost in the world when they come back. They no longer have that brotherhood. They no longer have that community. And they end up, with like the stress and the anxiety and the depression and all that other stuff that we talked about in today's episode, the stress factors, because they don't have that community anymore. That's just one thing that can change stress completely. I always notice when I get into a gym where everybody's feeling good, the music's pumping, and there's a great environment, that the stress goes away. Even if you had a bad day, it kind of stays outside the door. You walk in, you go, oh, this is great. I feel different already. The environment and the surrounding, the people, the community in there changed my state. And I love that you brought it back to our summer shred. I've noticed it with the guys in the program right now. As they talk to each other and share their stories, it's unbelievable how much that community is helping reinforce the things they're doing or that they're struggling with, and seeing that, okay, well, that guy actually has a good way to do it. I'm seeing that he's getting results this week. I'm going to try that. And I know you guys already told me that, but it's nice to see someone else kind of testimonial proof of purchase, right? So that's pretty cool too. But the gym, the environment, the music, the community, I think that's all really good. Do you want to add anything to that?
No, just like I said,
Yeah.
guys in our group, for instance, you got one guy that just is, talking about how much improvement he's got in his health and his decreased inflammation and overall joint pains and stuff from like eliminating drinking from his life. And then, you got other guys that are listening in on that, and they're like, oh, maybe I could cut back and, get some of those benefits too. My fucking joints hurt. Maybe I don't want to go through as much pain and inflammation. Maybe that's a good idea for me. And it's super, super cool to watch that.
I love it, man. And I'm going to jump ahead here because you just mentioned one of the guys in the program talking about that, reducing inflammation, reducing it. And number 9 on our list of 10 here is limit stimulants and alcohol, because those can be stressors major. The what to do here is reduce consumption of stimulants such as caffeine and alcohol that can, exaggerate the stress and anxiety. And coach, you've been through that road yourself. I myself, caffeine would be mine. And I know you've dealt with caffeine as yours too. Sometimes we even lose sleep because we time our caffeine wrong, the stimulant, and then we end up losing sleep, which we found out getting adequate sleep in number 3 was a de-stressor. So here we are using caffeine to sometimes pre-workout or stimulant, for whatever. And we're actually costing ourselves another de-stressing technique, which is our sleep. So tell us a little bit about yours, coach. What are you feeling on the caffeine and the stimulants part of it?
Yeah, well, I mean, alcohol is just going to decrease your sleep, and both of them, caffeine and alcohol, are just going to both decrease your sleep performance.
Mm-hmm.
I just got my Aura ring, wearing that again, so it checks my readiness score, my sleep score. And I remember when I was drinking real heavily, it used to just come back with some horrendous sleep scores when I was drinking. And so yeah, and then inflammation and so many things it's bad for. It's like the caffeine, for instance. It's like a little bit is probably fine for most people if you're just doing it for short periods of time. But it's that chronic exposure to it when you're just like losing sleep over it, and it's just increasing your cortisol levels for too long at a time, or you're doing like caffeine in the morning, then you're doing it at noon, and then you're doing it in the afternoon for your pre-workout. Like, you just want to be able to like moderate a little bit if you are going to do it, so it doesn't become a problem.
Awesome. And we've talked about caffeine in a previous episode. For those of you who haven't heard that episode, we talked about the half-life of caffeine, sorry. And so if you are someone who's pretty sensitive to caffeine, it might even show up in a coffee or a tea or a soda, like a diet soda or an energy drink. There's just different caffeine sources you can end up with. the half-life of it could still be something you have to consider, and that can still be 6 or 8 hours after you've drank that thing. So you really got to time that carefully to not have it affect you. And alcohol obviously has a very similar effect on the body. A lot of people use alcohol thinking they're going to get a better night's sleep. We've talked about that deeply in our sleep episode. So again, go back and watch that sleep episode.
Here's another thing too, that a problem that I used to have that might help some of the guys out here is we're always striking, we're looking for this like homeostatic balance, right? So like if we get too keyed up and our adrenaline gets pumping too high from doing too much caffeine or stimulants or stuff, there comes a point where it just doesn't feel good to our body to be like that jittery and that wired. And so what I would do is I'd have too many stimulants, and then at the end of the day, I'd need to come down because I didn't like feeling that wired, and I just wanted to be able to relax. So then I would look for, grabbing some cocktails or something like that to kind of bring myself back down. So watch out for that particular scenario if you're the type of person that's prone to abusing one or the other, because it's a vicious cycle. You get wired, and then you need something to bring you down, whether it's some booze or a pill or a downer or something like that. And then you take the downer and it knocks you on your butt, and then you need something to pep back up again. So you take some more stimulants. So you really need to like nip that in the bud and create some moderation.
That's good information right there. Love that. And talking about that balance again. So, it's keeping that balance in your life. But yeah, and again, you've gone down that path of, you go one way all in, your body needs to kind of rebound and come back the other way. And you might use that stimulant to get back out of there. Then you're kind of one medication to cure the other, So then again, that goes back to where exercise and stretching, breathing, and all the other stuff we've talked about today creates that balance for you without using any of those other stimulants. These are natural ways to do it. Which is what we preach on a regular basis. That's kind of our go-to. But not that we don't enjoy the odd, caffeinated drink or whatever it is we're using, but we try to time it better is going to be a big part of it. So I kind of jumped ahead there because we talked about that in our program with the Ultimate Man Summer Shred. One of the guys using alcohol and stimulants and cutting back on it and actually feeling major progress in his life. The next thing I want to talk about was relaxation technique. Now, again, some of these are going to overlap a little, but incorporating relaxation techniques like imagery and aromatherapy, those are a little different from, say, yoga. But we talked a lot about visualization before. Seeing yourself in a less stressed state can be visually stimulating to actually help reduce stress. Seeing a better outcome. I talked about earlier people seeing the future and getting worried about what might be coming. What if you frame it differently and just see a different outcome? You could actually reduce stress, seeing a better potential outcome than what you feared. If today's episode I said was about stress and how to stress less, and I had no notes prepared, and I was like, I don't even know what I'm going to talk about. I could come in here completely stressed and go, Aaron, I don't even know what the hell we're going to talk about today. I know it's about stress. I got no points. I'm way behind. We haven't prepared for this episode, and I'm lost, man, and I'm panicking. Like, what are we going to do? And Coach,
we're going to wing it. Let's just wing it.
Yeah, we would probably pull it off because we've been doing this so many years, but the stress level would still be there. But then Coach AJ says to me, listen, dude, I got all the notes here. Don't worry about it. I'll guide you through. I got everything we're going to talk about. You just add to the conversation. That would put me at ease. He would frame it in a way that's I'm going to see a better outcome than I just saw 5 minutes ago, feeling like I was overwhelmed. I had no preparation, no system in place, no nothing. So again, that comes back to where I see coaching. We provide a system, a blueprint, a template that's going to allow you to take the stress off. Don't worry about it, bro. What the outcome is whatever you visualize you want. We'll help design the plan to get you there. Take the stress off. And so I think that, seeing a better visual outcome is something you can set yourself up for instead of seeing, complete car crash in your future, right? So visualization is I think a relaxation technique. And again, we go back to another episode where we talked about George St. Pierre used to use visualization to win fights in the MMA ring, in the MMA octagon. And so he would visualize winning. Muhammad Ali's been said to have visualized a fight before it ever took place. You win the fight before you're ever actually in it. How much less stress is that when you've already seen your hand raised before the fight even starts? How cool is that? What do you want to throw on top of that one, Coach?
It just, I can totally relate. I used to do the same thing. I'd lay it there in bed before falling asleep, and I would just rehearse a fight over and over in my head if I had an opponent or a fight coming up, and I would just like put myself in bad situations, get out of an armbar. Okay, I scramble to another position. Yeah, visualization's definitely been a huge part of my process.
Nice. Have you ever used aromatherapy? Is that something you've ever dove into? It's in my notes, but it's not something I personally have ever done. Have you used it?
A little bit. Like I like the like a hot Epsom salt bath with like some lavender Epsom salt is really good. Lavenders are like an aromatherapy that's supposed to be very calming. So that's actually a great little, tip just to kind of like help chill out a little bit at the end of the day. A little hot bath with some Epsom salt and some lavender oil for sure.
Nice. I love it. See, this guy can add to any conversation. I can throw some facts out there, and Coach AJ's been there. He's done it, and he's got the T-shirt. It says lavender. No, I don't know if he got that. Number 10, the last one on the list today, is practice self-compassion. And so cultivate self-compassion, self-kindness. We talked about the language that you use with yourself. Treat yourself with understanding, acceptance during times of stress. And I think people are all too often looking to be perfect. And nobody's absolutely perfect. We do want to strive to be better, no doubt about it. 1% better on a daily basis is my mindset. I want to always do something to get better, whether I'm watching a podcast and learning something new, whether I'm doing a little more reps in the gym or a little more weight. We got our schedule going off here saying, you guys wrap it up. You're on your hour. So we're bringing that value. We're trying to keep it in an hour now. That's part of our boundaries that we set to take the stress off. So anyway, that just interrupted my thought pattern. But where was I, Coach?
Practicing self-compassion.
Right?
Yeah.
Positive self-talk. And I completely lost where I was at. Treating yourself with understanding and acceptance in time of stress. I think it's just people seeking perfection, expecting too much of themselves, going all in on a workout or all in on a diet to the point where if they're not absolutely perfect, they feel like they're not winning. And it's like, this is not a sprint race. It's a long journey. You got to take your time. Give yourself the grace and understanding that there's going to be some learning curves along the way. Track that progress so you have something to actually compare to. We're big on data because if we don't know where you are, how are you going to know? And how can we help you? Right? We got to figure out where we are. In order to do that, we recommend that you do some of these things like take a photo, get the measurements, jump on a scale, see where your body fat's at. When you do food, track that food. Like there's so many elements that you're not doing. But in our program, we make you accountable to doing that. That's what we're here for. We want to teach you that a lot of times people need motivation, they need accountability, then they need structure, and they need our knowledge. And those are 4 major reasons that we find most people want to work with us. So if you're anywhere in any of those 4, reach out to us. Check that link and just be open to hearing what we have to offer, but also let us hear what you are going through. So comment below. Let us know what's going on in your life with stress and how it's affecting you based on all the 10 things we talked about today. Coach AJ, anything to add to today's coaching seminar and podcast on stress and how to stress less?
Yeah, I mean, just so many people are just wired to the gills under so much pressure and demands and overwhelm. I like this last, and practice self-compassion. Prioritize self-care activities that nourish your body, mind, and spirit. Find those things that are really just going to like recharge you and put you back in a state of thrival instead of survival. So you're not just in a constant state of like cortisol elevation and stress. Like find those self-care activities, whether it's jumping in a hot lavender Epsom salt bath or doing a little meditation post-workout or something like that. And really, really put yourself first because you deserve it, kid.
Nice. On that note, cheers, brother. It's time for our celebratory Ultimate Man toast to all the gents out there who are watching, listening, enjoying. Grab your drink and cheers.
Salud.
Salud, boys. All right. That was an amazing episode. Once again, I'm very honored to get to be here and deliver such value with Coach AJ. We're doing our best to keep it in an hour, and we hope that you guys have stuck around till right now at the very end of the day. We have more tips and strategies that we're going to be giving to our participants inside of Summer Shred in the Ultimate Man program. If you want to get into that program and be part of it, reach out to us. Use that link below. Subscribe to our channel as always, and we will see you guys next time. All right, Coach, bring it in. Let's finish it here, boys.
All right, giddy up.